Sexual discipline and semen retention only work if you have something of worth to redirect that energy. It's less about the retention and more about the commitment and drive to a goal. If you don't have a clear focus, you're just making yourself angry and wasting time. What up, Black man? Welcome to the Beneficial Black Man podcast, where we journey together to overcome mediocrity and become beneficial for our community by sharing lessons from the highs and lows of life. I'm your host, Jamal Calpin. So I hope you all are doing well. I'm going to change up the format of the show from the previous episodes so that we can jump right into the topic. So one of the reasons I wanted to talk about sexual discipline and semen retention, one, because I know that's a topic that you can find it all over the place on the internet, social media, or whatever, in regards to men, right? But more specifically, recently, I don't watch a lot of reality TV shows. At least I try not to. It doesn't do much for me anyways. But recently there was a guy from, is it Love and Marriage Huntsville? His name is Maurice Scott, who's catching a lot of flack. He's catching a lot of flack for more or less having his wife, who is a cancer survivor, who's going through chemotherapy, they're having sex. I'm trying to think of the the best way to describe it, but they're having sex, and he sees it as admirable that she is, meeting that need for him while she is battling a life-threatening disease and going through treatment that causes a lot of issues in the life of of the patient, of the person who's dealing with it. And so he's catching a lot of flack, and so I want to talk about sexual discipline, but I also want to kind of touch on this real quick. So I'm going to play this clip. This is one of the clips that, you can find on like Instagram or whatever, but I want to play this clip real quick and then talk.
A person to where, despite what she's going through right now, you still feel like there's a happy medium in terms of her pleasuring you.
This is what I'll say, because this is very difficult, right? There's a difference between wants and needs, all right? And I'm a person who actually needs sex, not a person who wants sex. Now, at times I want it, but I actually need it. So life throws us curveballs like what we're going through right now. And what Kimmy is doing is admirable as a spouse. To roll over and suffer through it, I was hoping it wouldn't be a suffering, a sufferable moment, but she rolls over and suffers through it, fakes it, all for me. Because at that moment, it's something that she completely didn't desire, right? And I kind of look at it as if, and this is, all jokes aside, I look at it as her standing by me while I'm standing by her. So, as difficult as it may seem, we should all feel that we would be better people and say, oh, no, I don't want or need sex for however long it takes for you to recover. But we then live in reality where that's not true.
People are.
All right. So, okay. So I actually watched that whole interview with Maurice Scott and Carlos King, and I think it's an interesting interview. Again, I don't really follow that show. I don't really follow that guy or whatever. What I will say is, it's important to have sexual discipline. So my immediate thoughts, when I first heard about this, I felt, if I'm being honest, I'm being like shamed. I felt ashamed because, like, nowhere in my mind, if my wife had cancer or any life-threatening disease, would I at all want to pressure her with sex. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And in that episode, the host, Carlos King, he mentions that, like, And I guess on the show that mentions that, if a woman is going through, if anybody is going through chemotherapy, but particularly his wife, Kimmy, going through chemotherapy has changed the way that she feels about herself. It's changed her physical feeling, and it's changed her sexual, like her libido or whatever. And then to be like, well, baby, I still need you. Can you do this? I know you might be. We're believing that you're not, you're getting better, and then you're not potentially dying. And then I know you're going through this thing, but can you please, help meet this need in my life? That to me is very disappointing. It's very, very disappointing and sad. And to me, the immediate thought was like, yo, why don't you have any discipline? Why don't you have any self-control? And why don't you have any other way of managing that desire? And I don't mean extramarital activities. I don't mean anything like that. And it doesn't even have to be like self-gratification or whatever. But like the deeper heart very often, and the deeper real need oftentimes when it comes to sex, is a desire for intimacy, a desire to feel fulfilled. And for some cases, it's stress relief. Well, there's other ways to relieve stress, and there's other ways to feel fulfilled and accomplished. And there's other ways to have intimacy with somebody that you love without intercourse. But no, hearing this, like, I'm not dragging the guy or whatever. I'm disappointed. And I don't think that is a standard that we should be okay with. Like, the reason sexual discipline is so important, and I tie that together with like semen retention, is because seasons change in life. And as we're striving to be beneficial men, we need to be able to control ourselves. We need to be able to control ourselves, particularly in seasons where we need to help other people. And so we may have to put our needs on pause, or we have to figure out other ways to meet those needs when this option isn't available. And no, I'm not encouraging having an affair or cheating or anything like that. Something else that he mentioned in the podcast episode is that he that he was a deacon. So that was kind of like I didn't like that, but not to say there's anything wrong with being a deacon, but I don't like it. It becomes draining after a while, seeing that there are so many like negative representations of us as believers in this society. And I'm not saying that we're supposed to be perfect or anything, but I think sexual discipline is a big part of our walk in faith, particularly as men. There's a scripture that says, if you have that desire, it's better for you to marry than to like burn, for you to go out and fornicate and do other crazy stuff. But even then, you need to control yourself. You need to control your vessel. You need to have discipline, self-control, temperance of yourself, whether you're married or you're not married. It's something that's consistent, whether you're inside of a marriage where you're allowed to freely have sex or outside of it. Like he expressed that the longest he's gone without sex is 6 months, which I think is kind of crazy. Not to say that you have to go a long, long time for it. But again, as a believer, I don't know when he got saved. I'll say that. I don't know when he got saved. I don't know when he was committing his life to walking with the Most High. But let's say you're a teenager, right? 15, 16, up until, say, 35. I don't know how old he is now. I would hope that there was a period of time that you didn't engage in any sex that was longer than that, from your teenage years up until your adult mid-30 years, or were you just immediately indulging in self-gratification as soon as the option came? Were you sleeping around and fornicating, doing all kinds of stuff? Like, that's something we need to master. That's part of us mastering ourselves, like mastering that physical desire, those physical urges, the same way that we need to master our bodies in in fasting or like exercising, we need to be able to do that, have better control over it, because we will very well could be in situations where if we are married, our spouse or our significant other isn't available. Think about if you were with somebody that, say, was in the military and they're on leave for longer than 6 months. Look, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna have the discipline to endure that period of time, or are you just gonna be like, well, I can't figure this. I got to get out of here. Like, I gotta go do something that is gonna harm my marriage, or I'm gonna do something that's gonna, mess me up. Like, no, you got to be able to have that discipline. You got to be able to manage the highs and lows and manage yourself. He also made a reference to The Wolf on Wall Street, which again is a crazy movie, and I don't even know if that's a person that we should ever model ourselves after. But pretty much some of the advice that was given in that movie to the main character is like, you need to release multiple times a day so that you can focus on your work or whatever. No, I think you probably have an addiction, or again, you don't have that self-discipline, and that's a problem. Hey, what's going on, Dark Nate? Hope you're doing well, man. But I think that's a problem. Like, it takes work. I'm not going to deny that. It takes work to get yourself under control. It takes work to I have some notes, so I'm going to get to the notes shortly, but like it takes work to get there. And so like in my mind, I made a comparison between The Wolf on Wall Street and then what is referenced and talked about on like the Rocky series. So if you've never seen Rocky or even Creed, because he mentions it in Creed, the importance of like before a fight, you don't have sex, you don't do anything, like, because it's believed that it impacts your performance. And I think a lot of people, especially in like the no-fap community or like semen retention, sexual discipline, have that same idea. Like, if you're trying to accomplish something, if you're trying to achieve something great, you need that energy, you need that focus, and you have to redirect it to something good. I think, all right, I'm jumping to my notes. I think as men, we've been duped into believing sexual intimacy is one of the highest achievements and forms of fulfillment in life. Don't get me wrong, sex is great, but there are other things more fulfilling than sex. You may not think there is if you've yet to have it. You say you're a virgin or whatever, or you may think that way because you have elevated sex to such a high, you've elevated it to such a high place in your value scale. And granted, I can understand why you would do that, because we live in a society that pushes it so much. Like, sex and things related to sex are readily available and force fed to us all the time, whether it's in advertisements, whether it's just the internet itself, whether it's social media, it's just everywhere, But once you realize and develop a more, in my opinion, once you realize and develop a more mature perspective about sex, it changes things. That's why it's important to develop self-control and sexual discipline, especially while you're young, because seasons change and you need to be able to navigate that as a beneficial man in every season. That doesn't mean you don't take care of yourself. Like, of course, yeah, if you have needs, if you feel deprived in certain areas, if you have a spouse, yeah, you should talk to them about that. You can go to counseling about that, whatever. But it means you discover different ways to address your deeper and real needs in a more effective manner. So yeah, I've been married. Like, in this October, I've been married. I will have been married for 7 years, and I've been in long-term relationships with a significant other and stuff. And in and outside of relationships, I've had to practice sexual discipline a lot because of my beliefs, my faith beliefs, but also in honoring myself and honoring somebody else. Like, I get it. It takes work. I get it. I understand it's hard. But at the end of the day, it makes you a better man, that you can control yourself and that you can redirect your energy in a way that is more effective and more beneficial for yourself and for those around you. Because wasting your time, I'm sorry if this may be vulgar, but if you like wasting your time just on the internet watching porn and jacking off, you're not being very productive. You're not getting a lot done, and you're actually not meeting your needs, because you desire more. Like, very often when it comes to that sexual urge or the desire, you're looking for intimacy. You're looking to be valued. You're looking for fulfillment. There are other ways to do that in a more constructive way than sitting around. Shout out to Prince Petty, sitting around beating your meat. Like, you don't have to do that. And again, it's not helping you. It's not helping you to actually get to a deeper place. It's a temporary satisfaction. And you have to develop that. Like, you have to do that work of staying focused and like, okay, I'm actually going to accomplish things that are more long term. I'm actually going to get myself under control so that I'm just not tossed to and fro whenever a pretty girl shows up. Because in your marriage, if you're in a quote unquote dry spell in your marriage and some girl at your job shows up and she's pretty and she's flirting with you, are you just going to like give in to your sexual desires and now cheat on your wife? Or are you going to make space to develop a porn and masturbation addiction because, say, your wife is on her cycle, or she's wrestling with an illness and isn't really present? Like, what are you going to do? What you need to do is commit to something bigger than yourself. That I'm actually going to have honor and respect for myself, honor and respect for my significant other, and I'm going to continue to have a decent standard to say, like, no, like, I understand, sex makes me feel good and stuff like that or whatever, but there are more important things in life right now. Like, I desire to be successful. I want to finish a project. I want to accomplish a goal. I want to be better for my wife. I want to be supportive of her, continuing to use the guy Maurice Scott. I want to be supportive of her while she's going through this life-threatening situation. Like, are you even considering the stuff that might be going through her mind? If she's thinking about, if she has cancer, which for a lot of people, you die. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's probably her biggest fear. It's like, am I going to beat this? Am I going to be sick for the rest of my life? Is my condition of life going to be terrible for the rest of my life? Or am I going to be gone and I'm going to lose my family? I'm going to lose you. In that situation, she needs you. And if you can't put your, because he said needs, it's something that he needs. If you can't put your needs to the side to serve somebody else, I think you have a lot of maturing to do. And I mean, I think it's important also to really clearly identify what a need is. Because yes, sexual intimacy and romance and stuff is very, very important. Great. And I think that is a desire that we all have. But we don't need it. Like, in regards to, in the podcast episode, when he's talking to Carlos King, he gives examples like, yeah, we need oxygen, we need water, stuff like that. We to live, to survive. You can live without sex. I have yet to find any scientific evidence to say that if you don't have sex, you're gonna die. Like, I understand that it can have benefits to increasing the quality of your life, especially if you're healthy and all that stuff. But you can still thrive. You can actually have a great life without it. So, I mean, I think it's important that we reframe these things that we consider needs. I think we reframe the importance and the value of sex. Not to say that it's not valuable, but maybe it doesn't need to be so high on your list, whether you're single or married. Because yeah, I've heard, as a Christian, especially in my teens and going through like my 20s and stuff, there's an encouragement for you to remain pure. Some people call it purity culture or whatever. And during that season, you're supposed to be developing sexual discipline. What happens to a lot of guys, I would say a lot of Christian men, is they focus so much on, I'm going to delay gratification right now in this season, in my single season. So I'm going to say no to everything. I'm not going to do this or whatever. I'm not going to watch porn. I'm not going to masturbate. I'm not going to fool around with girls. I'm not going to do any of this stuff, with the hopes that when I get married, I'm just going to be able to wild out and do whatever I want. I'm going to, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the floodgates are opening and I'm diving in and everything's going to be great. Like, some going to weddings and marriages as a young Christian man, and some of the jokes that some people made were like, you know, once you get married, it's legal cheeks. It's legal cheeks. And, you know, it's like everything's it's very immature of us to make that joke. But that understanding is, again, selfish and limited, and again, very immature. During that period of time, teens, 20s, 30s, however long you're single, developing that discipline and maximizing I would say the power of semen retention, sexual discipline and stuff, is that you're able to convert that energy into more productive things. But if you're only enduring with the hopes that you can, like I said, while out, you're not setting yourself up right. You're not exercising right. You're not disciplining yourself right. You are not positioning yourself to develop a skill set and like the strength for something that is something that you can use in every situation of your life. And what I mean by that is, very often a lot of men, a lot of guys, especially Christian men who are, you know, trying to commit to this purity culture thing, like the focus is, I'm going to withhold, and then as soon as I can get in a marriage, my wife has to give me all of this. She has to fulfill all of my desires and stuff. Man, it sounds like you just want to like get into a position where you can like low-key grape your wife, and that's not good. That's not good. Sex is a very powerful thing. It's a powerful experience that you share with somebody else. And it serves a benefit. But if you put it so high up on the scale that you're almost worshiping that experience, again, you're limiting your growth. You're limiting your potential and your possibility to say that all of my life, all of my energy, all of my strength is going to achieving this. Well, what do you do when you can't have it? What do you do when your spouse is mad at you and she doesn't want to sleep with you? What do you do again when she's on her cycle? What do you do when she's pregnant? You know, what do you do then? Now that you are worshiping this desire, you're worshiping this thing that you couldn't get under control, this youthful lust, this we'll call it, like, for the sake of lack of words, an animalistic desire that you couldn't bring it under control. What do? Very often, a lot of men just run crazy and then cheat on their wife or get addicted to this or do that or whatever. Like, no, you bring that crap under submission. You bring it under control. And, you know, again, like I mentioned, it's like a form of alchemy. You take that energy and you do it, move it somewhere else. You take the energy to serve. You take the energy to fight for things that you care about. You take that drive and use it to manifest in different ways. And I would say, and I'm gonna wrap it up because I feel like I've been talking for a long time. To do this, you need to have a standard. You need to have a standard for yourself that you just won't be like controlled by your dick. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, I apologize if it's vulgar, but like, you won't be controlled by these urges. These things won't have you under control, but you will control them. Have a standard. Whether you're single or whether you're married, this is not going to run my life. Next thing, honor yourself and others. I think you honor yourself. Again, there's other ways to meet your needs. If it's an intimacy issue, if it's a stress issue, if it's a fulfillment issue, there's other ways to meet those needs. Honor others. If your significant other, your spouse or whatever, needs a break, needs time, needs something else, honor them in that. That's you being of good to them. In this situation with the Maurice Scott guy, my opinion, needed to honor his wife more. Give her time. Again, she's probably going through a lot mentally, emotionally, and physically. And for you to be like, well, babe, I need you to serve me in this way because I got these needs. Like, you almost feel like you're a fiend, man. Like, no, like, yes, you have wants. Because again, you're not going to die. She could because she's wrestling with cancer. She could. You're not, though. And I mean, again, if you really are that, just gratify yourself, like if it really comes down to that. But no, like have some discipline, have some control, honor yourself and say, no, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good. And I'm going to honor you as we go through this season. And last, invest your energy into something bigger than yourself. Like something I do wish I could go back in time and do as a younger man that had those desires. I wish I worked more. Like I wish I created more art. I wish I exercised more. I wish I wrote more. Like all of that energy, I just wish I'd spent it instead of falling in the trap of like porn addiction or masturbation or whatever. Like I wish I spent less time focusing on that and then actually building something, building myself up, making something. And you can do that. Like it's you have to realize that there's more than life than sex. There's more than life than romance and relationships. You're created for more than that. And so it's important that you get this discipline and this desire under control. And you can do it. Shout out to the Dark Nate. He says, this is why I'm convinced a lot of dudes think marriage is purely to have the wife as, bluntly put, a slave. 1000%, man. Outside of sex and making the wife cook and clean, they have no chemistry. It's true. It's true. and it's sad. Like, because I agree with you. And I think a lot of it comes down to, again, having the wrong perspective of so many things. Like our thoughts and beliefs of so many different things in our community and in our existence are twisted and wrong. And that's why I would say it's so important that we do the work to have this discipline, particularly in this video. I mean, sorry, I read something. Particularly in this area of our life. It's so important because again, seasons change. Whether it's singleness, being married, being divorced, or being a widower, or your wife being sick, or a period of time that you might be separated, or y'all might be going through some stuff, or you might be going through some stuff, or your libido changes. There's so many different things. But if you are striving to have mastery over yourself and do the work to continue to like be as beneficial as you can be okay in each one of those seasons. You can figure it out. I'm gonna wrap up the episode. I think I was gonna do a mental check-in. So the switch I'm doing is instead of doing the mental check-in, I'm gonna get to the topic first. So I'm gonna try that for a couple episodes and see how that goes. But for the mental check-in, which is something that you all should be doing, is you check in with yourself, however often you want to do that. What's been like the high in your life? What's been the low? And have you been creating anything? I was having a hard time actually trying to write down what my highs, lows, and stuff like that was. I think a high. I'm trying to think. Oh, I think a high, which is kind of a struggle high, but a high the other day. I was hanging out with my wife, and she recently bought some roller skates, and so she was roller skating, and I was around to make sure she didn't like fall and hurt herself. But she was roller skating. But while we were out, because we were hanging out in the park nearby, but I was exercising, and I was doing my normal exercises or whatever. But where we were in this parking lot, it has the lines for the spaces, and I used to play basketball when I was younger, and so there's a drill which rhymes with petricide. I don't even know if petricide is a actual word, but it ends with "ide." And what you do is you run from each line. So you start from the baseline, you go to the foul line, then you run back, and then you go to the half court line, back and forth or whatever. So if you've played any sports, you probably understand this process, right? So I decided to try to do that with the parking lot lines, and I hadn't done that kind of exercise in a very long time. I'll say that, in a very long time. So I'm struggling through that, trying to do that, bending down, hitting the line, going back, hitting the line, whatever. And I'm grateful that I did it. Like, exercising definitely is a release and relief for me. And, you need to move it, or you lose it, and we live in a culture, in a society that being stagnant and sedentary is kind of the norm, but it's degrading our life. It's not helping us. So that was my high, being able to exercise, and particularly to do that exercise. The low, I don't know. I can't, nothing really stands out, I guess, not right now. So, I mean, which is, I guess, is good. In regards to creating, this has been a slow week. Like, I'm sort of on break with my audiobook, so I didn't really do any voiceover work. I write daily, but it's nothing like really, really inspiring or whatever. But I'm working on that, trying to find other creative things to do. But yeah, so that's the episode. If you liked it, if you liked the episode, please like the video, share it with somebody. Subscribe to the channel. I will encourage you, Black man, watch the video that I did entitled "Hip Hop and Pornography Destroy Your Mind." I think that'll help you reframe your mind in regards to developing sexual discipline. But as we wrap up, Black man, you're called for more than mediocre living. You're here for a purpose, to live for glory and for good. Protect your mental, make time for an emotional release valve, and keep striving to become beneficial. I believe in you. Go make something for yourself, of yourself, and for glory and for good. Peace. Oh, yeah. Oh, nice. Wait, before I go, shout out to you, The Dark Knight. Keep working on that novel. I look forward to reading it whenever you're done, in the future, or buying it off of a shelf whenever you get it done. But thank you, The Dark Knight, for hanging out with me today. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you later. Peace, y'all.